I brought this into my household. I brought this illness here. And knowing how unpredictable any illness can be with a newborn. You know, very minor things can be very critical, very serious for them. So just uncertainty, anxiety, guilt.
Right. And you know that you don't have a reason to be guilty, but you still would feel it. Yeah. But the fear, it's got to be significant. So now you're secluded, and what is the next step? Do you have your wife tested? What did you all do? How were you taken care of?
So I was very well taken care of. My wife is just awesome. She's a superhero. She willed herself to basically be my waitress 24 hours a day.
Your nursemaid,
which is so she was dropping off food, 3 square meals a day, right outside the door to the bonus room, bottles of water, a pitcher full of ice, and just, you know, keeping me as comfortable as you would feel in a hospital, even more so because, you know, we were at home, but I had everything provided for me. My mother's a nurse. She's a registered nurse here in town. And so she's got every remedy known to man. So she came over with a bag full of medicine with, you know, things like cough drops and and sort of the over-the-counter type of things.
Did you take anything that would relieve the fever?
Relieve the fever. And then the next day, so after I got the result, the next day was a Sunday, I got a call from an unknown number. It was actually the county health department. So they'd been notified by the hospital that I was tested positive. And they called me to say, hey, we're going to check on you. We have to monitor you. We're going to check on you every day. And we want to hear about your symptoms. We want to know if you've been in any large gatherings and, you know, who might have been affected. So they were doing a very quick triage. Who's in the home? What kind of symptoms are the other people feeling? So that was really fantastic.
That's awesome. I love that we have that here available in Charlotte, and just really hope and pray that that's available everywhere. Because they basically told you what to do next.
Right. So they gave me the game plan. They said, you have to quarantine yourself away from anybody else. And I asked, well, what about the wife and kids? And I said, well, that's, you know, if you need social services, we can get you social services to get you groceries. But no one in the house is allowed to leave for at least 2 weeks. Because they've been exposed and they could very easily be a carrier. And so I was just amazed, like, wow, they're offering, you know, I told them we have an infant, she's on formula, she's on, she's not breastfed, she's bottle fed. And they said, if you need social services, we'll get you someone to get you groceries.
That's great.
And that was really just another amazing offer, unsolicited, to hear from someone else.
Yes. And so did your wife get tested?
So, no, they said, let's just see how it goes, and we're going to check on you every day, and you need to keep yourself isolated, and if your symptoms get worse, if you have any shortness of breath or anything like that, you need to go to the emergency room. And so I was on high alert and that's where the fear that you mentioned earlier, that starts to play into your mind of every time I cough, do I feel short of breath or do I not? Or am I just coughing?
What's my status? And I'm not trained.
Right.
I'm not trained to know that. Yeah.
Exactly. I have no idea. So I start Googling things and I start imagining, and I have a friend who's a ophthalmologist, so he's the closest thing I have to a free consultation, I guess, of a doctor. So I'm asking him. He doesn't know these things. So that was where the psychology of the situation really made it worse, much worse than the physical symptoms, because we were worried. I don't want to become a statistic here, so I need to be on high alert for any risk for myself to go see more urgent care if I need it, or to go somewhere else.
Right. So did anyone else in the family, did any of the babies or your wife have symptoms? And
so let's go over
this. Over the next week.
About 2 days. 2 days later, my wife tells me through text, we're just texting back and forth all day long, that she's feeling really tired. I'm going to see if I can get the baby to take a nap, and I'm going to take a nap. And that's pretty rare. That's very rare. That's not how my wife operates.
Yeah.
And so then the day progresses, and she just tells me she's just so tired. Just feels like I just got run over by a Mack truck. I'm tired. She's taking her temperature the whole time and never had a fever, but really felt tired. And I called in the next call from the county health department. I told them this. I said, my wife is saying she feels like just extremely tired. And they said, well, that's a symptom of the COVID-19. And based on what you're telling us, she's living in the household with you. She's probably got it. That's what they said. She probably is positive now.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then at least you, Dan, you can come out. If she's got it, somebody's got to take care of the kids.
Yeah.
So that was a blessing in disguise, for her to not for her to get it, but to be able to rejoin my family, to be able to be present and helping,
and to help them.
But now all of a sudden, okay, I'm coming out of here. I need to be wearing a mask and gloves at all times when I'm around the children. So that was my MO. Because I do some woodworking, I have some plastic gloves or some latex gloves in the garage for woodworking and staining. So I had some supplies. So I'm wearing these, cobbled together supplies to come and be around the family. And also at that same time, both my wife and I lost our sense of taste and smell.
Okay.
So we were eating, and I just couldn't taste the food at all. I didn't have a stuffy nose. I was not congested, but couldn't taste. And that was, again, what the health department said is another symptom.
Yeah, so you had very, very classic COVID-19 symptoms. But your wife, who lost the sense of smell and taste and had felt like a Mack truck ran over her, never had fever, never had a cough. So I'm wanting to speak to that loudly, because I need for our listeners to understand that it's not going to be exactly the same in everyone. And so there are so many people who are asymptomatic, meaning they don't have any symptoms, who could be COVID-19 and shedding virus. And then there are the people who have sort of slight symptoms, maybe stomach upset and feeling tired. And then there are the people who have maybe just one symptom. Oh, the only problem that I had was that I lost my sense of smell. And then we have the people who have full symptoms like yourself, and then, of course, beyond that. So there's a full spectrum of symptoms, and I'm really still encouraging. I know that we're starting to open, but I'm just encouraging everyone out there. The cases of COVID-19 and deaths from COVID-19 are continuing to rise in most of the country. Please, please, please mask when you're out. I don't mean outside taking a walk, but, when you're going into the stores that are open now and that kind of thing, to at least protect one another so that we can get an even better handle on this thing. Dan, I'm thanking you so much for sharing your story. Can you tell the listeners at what point did you all start feeling better? So if you really had to count the number of days from when you had that tickle in your throat to when you started feeling like yourself again, how many days would you say that would be?
It was probably about at least 10 days, maybe more. But we started to see progressive improvement, but still having a cough, but it started to abate. It started to slow down a bit. The fever, I was checking myself every day. The fever actually went away around day 4.
Okay.
Without any Tylenol, without any kind of any medicine.
Yeah.
But the cough was probably the most lingering thing.
Okay.
And then for my wife, the fatigue was about 3 days in full effect, and then it started to taper off of her starting to get some energy back.
So the idea,
so
the idea that 2 weeks after the start of symptoms, you could pretty much reconstitute. You pretty much are yourself at that point.
I could work again. I was able to work at that point. My thinking. That's maybe another thing that I didn't mention. My thinking was still slow. I can operate. We can operate on autopilot a lot of times, but critical thinking for the kind of work that I do, that was probably 3 weeks before I felt sharp, where I felt like I can think on my feet. Somebody can ask me a question, I can recall. So I was able to do basic tasks, but not really at my best for a good 3 weeks.
It did affect you cognitively as well. Yeah, for about 3 weeks. For about 3 weeks. That's important because we're not hearing much about that. Okay, so that's...
Yeah, I wouldn't have trusted myself to drive during that time. To react quickly on the road, I would not have been in good shape to do that.
Sure. Okay, that's important. Dan, I can't tell you how thankful I am that you and your wife and your children came through this. And I'm assuming the children didn't have any symptoms. Did the children?
They had none. That was the best part of it all. They had none, and that was. We have not gotten tested for any antibodies. We, I think out of curiosity, I'd like to know. I don't know if they're doing that for children at all or not at the doctor's offices.
Well, at this point, maybe not. But I think at some point, surely, everyone will be tested for antibodies. We just have to know. It'll help us to work backwards to understand the extent to which people have been infected and not know it, asymptomatic infections as well as symptomatic infections. And so that will happen, I think, once we can get out of this critical period here, which we're just not out of. And obviously, once we have a vaccine, and we will have a vaccine, I believe that, once we have a vaccine, then we can officially kind of, start to breathe again. But honestly, the development of a really safe vaccine takes about 18 months. So, I'm sort of looking at next June-ish. So I just encouraging people out there to be careful. I really wanted Dan to share his story because, it's encouraging because he really, had, significant symptoms, and to know that you can come out of it and your family can be asymptomatic or have very mild symptoms, but then to know that, particularly for the elderly, these symptoms can go on to very, very significant symptoms, and that it can go on to death, and that we know that from if we're looking at the numbers. So even though it's easier to kind of think, oh, it's probably fine. It's easier to think that way. I'm just trying to encourage everyone to really protect yourself and to protect each other. And if we all do that together, we'll all come through this fine. This has been a major challenge. Your family held up fantastically, Dan. I'm so impressed with, just how systematically you all went through the process and came out of it with 3 young children. It's just amazing. Thank you so much for being on All That's Well today, because I really wanted people to hear your story.
Well, thank you. I'd just like to add one more thing, and that's to reinforce what you said of stressing the importance of still being precautionary, even though we got through it and we don't have any real scars to show for it physically. Sure. It's a lot of that is because we had so much support from family, from neighbors, from friends, to keep us stocked with groceries, to keep us stocked with toilet paper and basics, because we couldn't leave physically. We're not allowed to leave our home for over 3 weeks from a county quarantine. We had a legal order essentially from the county. So there's so many people that don't have that don't have a support network.
That's right.
And if they get sick, they're going to have a much harder time, even if their symptoms are in our case, we're manageable. Sure. What are they going to do for their kids? How are they going to get food to eat? How are they going to, unless they risk it and go out, which they should not be doing.
Right. Is it even
we were very blessed and
Dan,
very fortunate.
Is it even a 2-parent family? Do they live in a town where they have extended family or friends? Yeah, you bring up a really important point, and thanks so much for speaking to that. Because you were blessed, and thank you for blessing us with this story. All the best to you and your family. So thankful for you all, and just stay well. now that you're well again, stay well.
We'll try. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. So, wow, that's quite a story, and it's so nice to speak with someone who's gone through it and who is doing so well. I wanted to share that with you all. And again, I just really want to stress the importance of taking care of yourself as much as possible. Get over your pride, and I don't want to go out with a mask. I think we've seen that in play in this country, where people just don't want to wear a mask because they think it looks stupid, or I don't like how it looks, or whatever is going on with that. Just please protect one another by wearing a mask when you're out in stores and in common areas. And, work out, take your vitamins, eat right, sleep right, stay strong and stay well, please. I am going to, there's one more COVID